Stanisław Barszczak, How They Stole the Moon. Dear Internet users, Tomb of Sand is written by Gitanjali Sri, which was nominated for the Man Booker Prize in English this year. The Man Booker Prize for Fiction is the most prestigious literary award in Great Britain, awarded for the best English language novel from last year, until 2014, to be awarded to authors who were citizens of the Commonwealth of Nations. A novel translated from Hindi by Daisy Rockwell. Tomb of Sand reveals a portrait of an 80-year-old woman called Ma in the Commonwealth of Nations in the novel, who becomes depressed by her husband's death. The book begins with the vignettes from the grey life and home quarrels of an upper-middle-class bureaucrat. She is constantly sleeping on her bed, facing the wall, and refuses to leave the bedroom in her son's Beit house. One day, Ma comes out of her depression and runs away from Beit's house, her son. When Ma is found, she decided to move to the house of her artistic daughter, Betty, and stay with her. Ma is taking on a new life, and her family members will witness a significant change in her lifestyle, manner, and attitude. An important role in this change is played by her friendship and hijra journey with her transgender friend, Rosie's companion. I would like to remind you here that transgender persons may describe themselves as both male and female, or situated in several places in the course of any of the traditional transgender continuum, or more broadly embracing continuums which were developed in response to much more detailed research conducted in recent years. Ma has gone to the mountains. See Hijra, glory to Allah. Hijra, migration journey for the benefit of Allah, means in India a transition from the land of abiding in partnership with polytheism and Sharik, in Arabic Sharik, to the land of Islam, the land of God's last fulfillment. When Rosie is murdered, Ma decided to fulfill Rosie's last wish, partnership, for example, deliver Indian spices, Koronji, to her relatives in Pakistan by traveling to Pakistan. Betty succumbs to Ma and Ma's companions to Pakistan. Ma's past is revealed when they arrived in Pakistan, and catastrophic incident occurred that could affect the family for life. Yes, it's a fat book, but it's an absolute pleasure to read. But it will take a while to get my thoughts together. There is so much in this 700 pages. As a book of so many pages, Tomb of Sand demands your full attention from you. It is a genre-defying, get my thoughts together, experimental work with no established plot structure, containing elements of metafiction, magical realism, satire, absurd, political or social commentary, and humor. Inspired experimental by the division of India and Pakistan in 1947, it deals with the main theme of borders. While it is clear that the term border would denote the boundaries drawn between India and Pakistan, Shri has explored the term boundaries in a unique way. Rigid boundaries that have been drawn between gender, caste, age, and identity. The change in Ma person and Betty's lives and the dynamics show the age line, while Rosie's character is a great metaphor for the blurring of gender boundaries, not to mention the transgender issue in India. Who cares about me? Tomb of Sand is the perfect translation of the multi-layered Red Samadhi original in Hindi book. The translator perfectly renders no linear sentences and clever wordplay in the main Hindi original. Rockwell explains in the translator's note that the original was full of Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, Sanskrit, and even English phrases, reflecting the ecosystem in which the novel is embedded. The story itself is a bit slow as we follow a recent widow from deep depression to some sort of resurrection, living with her murdered daughter, deepening the line against friendship with a hijra person, and uncovering more tangible boundaries. This is how the work touches some of the wounds of life. At each stage, expectations are changed, a role redefined. The story takes a while to gain momentum. The main character takes over 100 pages to get out of bed. But when it starts to shake, it's an engaging and overwhelming read. The neglect of this work and Hindi fiction in general is outrageous, I will say. Shri's writing are beautiful, poetic, and lyrical. It takes time and patience to truly appreciate the literary quality and value or meaning behind the poems. A Shri language game with the use of the objects and animals around it would be impressive here. Doors, Reebok shoes, the Buddha statue, crows, cracks in the wall, the way of the big stump. All of this has been humanized and assigned to specific role and values, all intertwined with the main thread of the story. There is not much plot and character development of this has been going on throughout the story. Readers' reading experiences to appreciate Shri's prose as well as the translator's effort to preserve the beauty and spirit of Hindi through translation. The novel is full of translated works in Hindi, Punjabi, Urdu, and Sanskrit, as I mentioned. It is immersed in many Indian cultures, seafood, slang, sauces, and references to Indian Pakistani writers and artists, including Jagdish Swaminathan, Bisham Sani, Intizar Hussain, Bhupen Kakar, Paul Zakaria. The horrors and consequences of the partition of India and Pakistan in 1947 are especially highlighted in the fourth part of the novel, in which Ma and Betty travel to Pakistan. The religious animosity along the Grand Trunk Road, which caused a lot of bloodshed, the violence that constantly took place in Kibera, and the animosity between Hindus and Pakistanis are accentuated by Shri's beautiful prose. References to the literature and writers of the partitioning powers and their sorrows and longings are aptly placed in the fourth part of the novel. A group of partitioning writers sit in a row, and each person has a showcase facing a formal banquet. Brishem Sani, Balwant Singh, Joginder Pal, Mantu, Rahi Masum, Raza, Shani, Intizar Hussain, Krishna Sopti, Kashwant Singh, Ramanand Sagar, Manzoor Etesham, Rajinder Singh Bedi. So many that you could talk to them like that, and actors crowd around them, bouncing and spinning like acrobats reading lines from the scripts. I have to be honest, my review does not do justice to either the writing, Shree's ideas, or Rockwell's efforts to translate this masterpiece. It is full of linguistic innovation, beautiful use of no-linear sentences, and a fun mix of magical realism and commentary, both of the Indian government, post-colonialism, human neglect, and LGBT issues. It's so brilliant, I have to rate it 5 stars. Many thanks to Tilted Axis Press and Daisy Rockwell for introducing this beautiful Hindi literature to the world. And from now on, I really choose it, I like it. The slow, meandering initial pace of the narrative turns into a breathtaking story in this difficult to categorize book. I cordially invite you to read this book. And now the moral lesson from this book and more. Dear brothers and sisters, the threats from Russia and the fact that Minister Lavrov made a declaration surprising for Ukraine are useless. Lavrov said on Wednesday that Ukraine and Russia have made significant progress and a positive move in the peace talks. The head of the Russian Foreign Ministry emphasized that Ukraine recognized the need to withdraw from joining NATO and that Kiev understood that the issues of Crimea and Donbass have been resolved for good. Quote end. His competitor Zelensky is begging for sanctions, told the United Nations like such. Russians in Bucha killed everyone, raped women, crushed people with tanks for fun. Thus, a huge package of European Union sanctions against Russia has been announced. German media reported the federal government is partly to blame for the massacres in Bucha and Mariupol. We have Russia's propaganda response to Bucha. They will present Mariupol's defenders as victims of the Ukrainian army. Quote ends. Jens Stoltenberg, NATO Secretary General, said, Russia is preparing to occupy the entire Donbass. No rape is used as a weapon. British media on the enormous scale of sexual violence in Ukraine. The bodies of young children were found with traces of rape and torture. Some countries have already kicked out Russian diplomats. The list keeps getting longer. Tons of bananas in Ecuador are rotting in Ukraine because of the war. Australia is sending aid to Kiev. Bushmasters, a new weapon, already in the colors of Ukraine now. The Russians came to send the loot home. The Russians fired on a civilian ship. Klitschko appeals to Western countries. Every euro, every cent has blood on it. Quote end. Mariupol is waiting for evacuation. General Pacek, Russia wants to destroy the Ukrainian nation. What is the Catholic Church saying in this area? Cardinal Gerhard Ludwig Miller, former prefect of the Vatican Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith on War. I quote, "The Church allows murder in self-defense. If a man does not kill, he will die himself, as the last weeks have shown us," said one of the Vatican hierarchs, referring to the Russian war crimes committed in Ukraine. The Ukrainian people not only can, but should apply the principle of self-defense, he added. God gave us the commandment of the Decalogue, do not kill, but if someone is an aggressor and comes to kill us, then we not only have the right but even a duty to defend ourselves, said Cardinal Miller in an interview with the Polish press agency. The former prefect of the Vatican Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith emphasized that Ukrainians should, above all, first of all, fight for their lives. He stressed that in a situation in which we are dealing with a brutal, unfounded attack by Russia on an independent Ukraine, the nations not only can but should apply the principle of self-defense. If a man does not kill, he himself will die. Killing a man, including the aggressor, from the point of view of faith, is never something to do positive, he said. The teaching of the Catholic Church clearly says that killing a man should not be the overriding intention, but the so-called and necessary defense, he announced. If soldiers by their nature are good people, then when confronted with the enemy, they face dilemmas and internal suffering related to the fact that they had to kill someone in a war. Some people can't handle it. In practice, such a situation in the mental dimension is impossible to solve. We are dealing with a kind of stalemate, he argued. The priest reminded that in the event of remorse, the sacrament of penance and reconciliation can help. God always offers his forgiveness to a man who regrets, he added. Cardinal Miller pointed out that there are people who, even during the war, are not able to kill the enemy, and we must be able to respect that. The hierarch also recalled that, according to the Geneva Convention of the 1949, it is forbidden to kill prisoners or innocent people. The convention states that persons not directly participating in hostilities, including members of the armed forces who have laid down their arms, and persons rendered unfit to fight as a result of disease, injury, deprivation of liberty, or for any other reasons, shall in all circumstances be treated humanly without making any difference to the detriment as to race, color, religion, or belief, sex, birth, or property, or any other similar grounds. The Convention prohibits attacks on life and physical integrity, in particular murder in any form, mutilation, cruel treatment, torture, and torment, hostage taking, and condemning and execution without prior judgment issued by a properly constituted court, offering procedural guarantees deemed necessary by civilized nations. By convention, the wounded and the sick should be taken from the battlefield and treated. Good brothers and sisters, internet users, companions on my path in life, let me tell you something new. A strange energy rules the world, and we are scary in this era. My health is fickle, Pope Francis recently noted, and before that, he enigmatically said, we are all guilty. A few hours ago, as a sign of solidarity with the Ukrainian people, he kissed the Ukrainian flag. In Lent, we need cleansing and a change of heart, because the world is crazy about the dictatorship of modernity. New systems and images of raising humanity are emerging, new strategies of morality, I would say. Scientists create new theories for the world of tomorrow. We surrender to the internet. From now on, there are many theories that we will never understand. I will say, here I would like to say about our moon. Although the Moon has been a constant companion of our blue planet for many billions of years, we are still far from unraveling all the mysteries of the Earth natural satellite. Despite all the research and manned landing projects on the Moon, 6 successful United Nations missions between 1969 and 1972, groundbreaking discoveries about the Earth satellite continue to emerge, which allow us to look at the nature of characteristics of the Moon from a completely new perspective. In today's essay, I would like to delve into this fascinating topic and present some breathtaking lunar discoveries from recent years. Let me start with the mystery of strange light phenomena that regularly haunt the lunar surface. Whether this is the result of gas escaping from the rocks on the Moon and reflecting too much of the light that reaches the ground, Earth, we do not know, but there is no satisfactory theory about it. Another point, rushing rocks. This is what scientists call the bombardment of our satellites by asteroids and the formation of new mountains on our constant companion, the Moon. With what else? It is interesting to explain the term dark side of the Moon, which is illuminated by the Sun. Also, this reverse side of the Moon also goes through the phases of illumination, but in the opposite direction to what we can observe from the Earth. In this context, I would say about the true frontier of human life. What is a border? The fin that surrounds existence, which is the human circuit, is the state of or fact of having a being that is particularly independent of human consciousness and opposed to no existence. No matter how big the existence, no matter how small, everything still has a limit. However, the boundary is not made to be removed. We have to illuminate it from both sides. It is necessary now, I ponder. Don't accept the border. Do not break yourself by pulling you into frames, showing you in bits or pieces like that as well. And at this point, I would like to give you another opinion that in my lifetime, Pluto planet will not longer be a planet, although it may be possible in the future. Imagine the Moon and the Earth are a binary planetary system. The Moon is a companion to the Earth. It does not revolve around the Earth, but revolves with the Earth according to the helio and not the geocentric theory of the universe. The field of gravity of the Moon around the Earth does not pass through the center of our planet, but on the fringes of the human globe, at the edge of the mantle that extends less than 5 kilometers into our planet, under our planet. Is it not an image of our life, not focused on itself, but on the immanence of the word given to us? I am deeply convinced of it. Immanence, from Latin immanens, remaining in something, from immanere, remaining inside, is the opposite of transcendence, inherent containment of something in something. In particular, the contents of the knowing subject's inner life are immanent towards themselves. I would not like to equate immanence with transience, because we pass away in God. As I said, the scientific organization has stripped the Pluto I just mentioned as being a planet. Goodbye The world is changing. What else to say on the threshold of the fourth millennium of human civilization? Make a subjection for yourselves is in the Bible, words by Bible. NASA has already discovered thousands of Earth-like planets in the universe. But we still do not know whether NASA organization will name them planet or dwarf planets. The TESS telescope has also discovered new planets better than Earth. Here I will also say that the Earth is losing weight and becoming lighter, and its shape becomes more and more circular in space, I believe. We know if the moons of Mars, Phobos and Deimos will not become more circular one day. One more point here. Time travel is one of humanity's most fascinating ideas. The ability to contemplate the future or the past arouses great interest in all of us. Traveling back in time, whether into the future or into antiquity, can give us an idea of what the life of our ancestors or future generations was like. A look back in time can also help unravel many of the mysteries that haunt mankind. In a photo from 1943, a man is holding something like a modern cell phone to his ear. Back then, there was no question of cell phones at all. Does he travel in time? I won't say yes or no. The moon, so revered by previous generations of people, is moving away from the Earth. This is clearly stated by scientists now. Here I would like to mention that incredibly large pyramids, amazing sarcophagi, and even mysterious and unexplained hieroglyphy have appeared in the history of mankind. Ancient Egypt is surely one of the most interesting and exciting times in all human history. There are still so many unknowns and at the same time so many mementos from this almost forgotten period. We do not know whether these unknowns from history and left artifacts telling about the advanced technology of past civilizations, or they bring us closer to solving the mystery of human life. It is a pity, each of us would say, because we are always curious about what the future holds for us. In our era, there is a war in Ukraine, as I said, and innocent people are dying. So do the Sumerians, Phoenicians, with their handwriting and genuine face, not embarrass us in the technical era. This also, I would say, cannot be forgotten. I invite you now to read the book Tomb of Sand, written by Gitanjali Shri, but also to take a look sometimes for my essays. This review and my essays can now be found on my blog at sbarszczak2009.wordpress.com. The author's blog can be seen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, as well as after downloading the WordPress.com application on Android. The author wishes the reader of my stories and essays a pleasant reading. Thank you.